What's up guys, Jeff Cavalier, ATHLEAN-X.com. What you see behind me is a bunch of different supplements, many of which you're either taking right now or maybe consider taking at some point. However, my job today is to help you to determine whether or not it's actually right for you, whether the actual supplement category is right for you, and most importantly, at what age should you consider maybe even taking it. I'm putting together my supplement timeline to help you to figure out not just what, but when, or if you even need it at all. And so today I'm going to expand upon a previous video I made where we made a timeline just like this, but with new science of supplementation that we can apply to our decisions, we can make better recommendations. That being said, we want to identify the age bracket so you can find out where you fall in. We have the 10 to 13-year-old age bracket. And you might think to yourself, that's too young. Not for all supplements, and we'll cover that. 14 to 19, so your typical teen age bracket. 20 to 34, 35 to 49, and then we have our 50-year-olds and up. Now again, we're going to break down each and every category here and make the recommendations based upon the age brackets. The specific recommendations may always be different, and you're always best advised to consult a physician before you start taking anything. That being said, let's dive into the first category. And so we start off the list with one of the most popular supplement categories, and also maybe the one that you start your day with. We're talking about a multivitamin. Now, to me, it's sort of like the insurance policy of all supplements. In other words, it takes that broadleaf weed control approach to filling in the gaps of your nutrition. So if you're missing something right now, you might be able to fill in some of the gaps with a multivitamin, but not extremely well. And especially when you consider the fact that a lot of multivitamins are constructed poorly, right? They'll throw everything that they could possibly throw into one or two pills. That problem, though, is that a lot of times the things that they put in together conflict with each other. For example, vitamin B12 and vitamin C conflicting with each other's absorption, well, it doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense to put them together. This has been a big issue for me and one of the reasons why we're actually constructing our own multivitamin. But the point is whether or not they're safe or appropriate for all age groups. And my answer is yes. It gets a green check in every single one of the categories. As a matter of fact, even children under the age of 10 are taking multivitamins. Again, the issue is the effectiveness of them, but not necessarily the safety. And certainly, I don't think you're going to address all of your nutritional deficiencies just by taking one, but it is at least a good start. So if the multivitamin was more broad spectrum, well, this is where the specialty vitamins come in to specifically fill the gaps that you're looking to target. And it's an important category here because a lot of us will have deficiencies in certain nutrients and micronutrients that will actually play out a significant role in our overall health. Being vitamin D deficient can cause big problems. Being vitamin B12 deficient, if you're following a vegan diet, can cause big problems. But what I recommend here is you actually go at this with more specificity. In other words, get some blood work done. Get the help of a physician to determine where you might be lacking in specific areas. And again, it can be incredibly safe for all these age categories, provided you're taking a more measured approach. Making sure that what you're taking, you're not taking in excess, but making sure you're taking it for a purpose. And when you do fill in the gaps with a specific action plan, you'd be amazed at sometimes the difference it can make in terms of how you feel and overall how you perform. So for me, the specialty vitamins are something you should definitely look into, but make sure you're taking a selective approach when choosing yours. And now we get into more of the muscle building or weight training supplements, and the one leading off the list here is the one that actually leads the category in popularity, and we're talking about protein powder. And ironically, I like to start by saying I don't even really view protein powder as a supplement. I think of it more as an alternative source of protein like I do beef, chicken, or fish. And sometimes it's actually a much more convenient form of protein for a lot of people to make sure that they're getting in their adequate daily protein amounts. That being said, where do we start? Do we start as young as 10 to 13? My idea here is not necessarily. I think that kids at this age bracket, they're not even really training yet with a purpose. They may not even be lifting weights yet. So the protein that they should be able to get from a good nutrition plan, which yes, should be in place by this age, doesn't really necessarily need to come from external sources. But in the 14 to 19 age range, where we all start lifting weights, we hit high school, we start competing in sports, our goal is to build muscle, we want to make sure we're supporting those efforts. And here, a good high quality protein, I stress a good high quality protein, is a great thing to have. Now, as we get into older and older age groups, I actually think that it becomes even more important, again, for two reasons. Number one, as the body starts to become bigger, right? As you go from being a 90-pound kid to a 180-pound man, your protein requirements will go up as well. Because we know that the recommendations are most often based upon your body weight, or at least your lean body mass, but in some factor it's related to the size of your body. So as you start to become bigger and more mature, your body's requirements for protein will go up as well. So for sure, having a place that you can conveniently rely on to get your protein needs met is actually really well done through protein powder. The same thing here, but for a second reason, I think it becomes incredibly important as you start to get into these age brackets. Because as we get older, we start to fight muscle loss. In other words, we're trying to play for the tie at the very least, not losing the hard-earned muscle we worked hard to gain throughout our earlier years. Protein powder is a must when it comes to trying to, or at least protein in some form, is a must to try to preserve the muscle that you have. So in my opinion, protein powder is one you're definitely going to want to look into when you're constructing your own supplement timeline. Speaking of protein, if you're looking for the highest quality protein available on the market with an industry-leading 30 grams per serving, you can find ATHLEAN Pro 30G over at ATHLEAN-X.com. It's the only one I trust and the only one I'd actually put my name on the back of the bag. Now back to the video. Next up in our supplement categories is yet another that actually I don't consider a supplement, because it's not. We're talking about TRT. The problem is, though, you hear people talk these days, you think that it is just as much a supplement as the multivitamin that you might pick up at GNC. But it's not. It's a drug with drug-like effects. You shouldn't be considering TRT in the same realm of supplementation, and there's a very important reason why. Because once you start taking TRT in many cases, you need to stay on it for the rest of your life. None of the others here are that mandatory. You can get off whenever you want. TRT is a replacement therapy designed for people who are deficient in testosterone, or their body has an inability to either create enough testosterone, or they have issues in which binding of free testosterone renders the active testosterone useless. Now, there is potentially a rise in the number of people that could benefit from testosterone because environmental factors, exposure to pesticides, BPAs, maybe it is causing an overall decline in men's testosterone levels, but not to the degree that you may have been led to believe, or the excuse that people are using as a reason to jump on TRT. My issue here is that in the cases that it is actually clinically necessary, it's extremely necessary. It's medically the only way that you're going to get yourself back to feeling great. In other words, where the repercussions exist from taking this unnecessarily, many repercussions exist for not taking it when you actually need it. And that can occur in as young as a young teenager. The issue is address it if needed, but don't go there if you don't need to. So for me, this is always going to be a CWYD, or consult with your doctor, throughout the entire timeline. Next up, we're talking about something that's actually related, at least in purpose and focus. We're talking about test boosters. These, I believe, are more supplemental because they actually don't affect or turn off your body's ability to produce testosterone. That being said, my opinion has definitely changed here. I feel that new research has evolved that's introduced new compounds that do a safer job of giving you some benefits. Now, not to the degree that you might experience with testosterone replacement therapy, but at least some benefits that can be done safely. My good friend Andrew Huberman was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and it's actually the first place that I heard about things like Tonkat or Fedosia. Tonkat is incredibly effective at addressing a specific type of low testosterone, and that is when you have high SHBG levels. And one of my clients actually had high SHBG levels because of a family history. Everyone in their family had a genetic predisposition to have high sex hormone binding globulin. What that does is it basically takes your total testosterone, which could be even high, but it renders your free testosterone useless as it binds to it. If your free testosterone levels are low, the overall effect of testosterone in your body is not going to be there. So if you can take a supplement that can safely decrease SHBG, well, you might have a weapon in the arsenal to do this, and again, in a supplemental way, but I would just say consult with your doctor here as well across the entire category before you take it. And next up, while we're at it, can I at least get the last one here off of my chest and get it out of my system? We're talking about SARMs, selective androgen receptor modulators. You know where the most popular use of this is? Right here, in the 14 to 19 bracket. That is disturbing. I do not recommend the use of SARMs to anybody. They're incredibly untested. We're talking about testosterone replacement therapy and my objections there being used unnecessarily. At least we know what it does. Here, it's anyone's ballgame. I do not recommend these, and this is a place that I would advise parents to be wary of what their kids are buying. They go to websites that say not for human consumption, and legally the websites have to say that on these products, yet they sell them and kids take them. This is incredibly popular here, like I said, but it could be of interest to anyone in any portion of the timeline. My sincere recommendation is just simply to avoid them no matter where on the timeline you sit, and for that, they deserve the X in every single bracket. And that brings us to the last on our first half of our list, and we're talking this time about melatonin, an increasingly popular supplement these days, most of all probably coming out of the pandemic. Why? Because sleep was pretty damn disturbed as a result of doing nothing but staying home and looking at our computers and devices. See, exposure to blue light at night which is a lot of us do as we head off to bed, can interrupt your natural sleep cycle. And melatonin is supposed to help us to restore a normal circadian rhythm. That being said, it is a safe supplement that anyone can use. It's actually been recommended to our 2 children under the age of 10 who struggle a little bit with their sleep. The fact of the matter, though, is it effective? And when we think about some of the other research that's out there, again, more research coming from my friend Andrew Huberman, who talks about more natural alternatives. Morning exposure to sunlight can help to restore the circadian rhythm and set natural sleep patterns so that you wake up feeling refreshed every single morning and go to bed at a more regular time every night. The fact is, though it's safe, whether or not it's a part of your plan is really up to you, but my recommendation would be put away those devices, get more restful sleep, and of course, take a peek at that sun every time you wake up. And now we work the other side of the board and kick off in the process a run of some more of the training-specific supplements. And this time we're talking about creatine. Now notice I didn't say what type of creatine, because there's a lot of different types. Well, what's the difference? Well, it depends on how your body handles the type that you take. Creatine monohydrate is by far the #1 most popular form of creatine. There's also creatine hydrochloride. There's also buffered creatine. Understand this, the difference between the end effect of what type you take is all the same. It's still going to help you with ATP regeneration. It's still going to help you to produce more power and force in the workouts that you're doing. It's still going to help you to hydrate the muscles and in the process make them hopefully more anabolic and at the very least give you more intramuscular water to add some immediate muscle weight. The fact of the matter though is it's a well-researched, incredibly safe supplement. I will say this to the parents out there, people who inquire about whether creatine is steroids. It is not. It is incredibly safe. Therefore, kids as young as 14 to 19 who are going to seek this out should probably be able to do so very safely. Again, consult with your own physician. However, in many cases, your physician plays it way too cautious, in my opinion, in terms of this. This is a very safe supplement. That being said, every other age bracket here is going to benefit from creatine, especially if they're training hard enough. In the 10 to 13 age group, again, you're probably not even training really much with weights at this point, so it's completely unnecessary. But if you're looking for creatine, the only decision you should be making about whether it should be monohydrate or some other form is how it reacts in your body. If you tend to get gut discomfort after taking it, then you may be one of the 10% or 15% that has issues with monohydrate. So in that case, you'd opt for something like hydrochloride, which not only can be taken in smaller dosages, but doesn't have the side effects that those that have them do with monohydrate. And one last thing to address, when people talk about hydrochloride being chosen simply because it's more expensive and the manufacturer can make more money, that's just simply not true. Though it costs twice as much as monohydrate does on a kilo per kilo basis, it also, as I said, can be taken in almost half as much of a dose. So 2 to 3 grams is the effective dose of hydrochloride, 5 grams the effective dose of monohydrate. When you balance it all out, they pretty much cost the same. Take the one that's most comfortable for you and just reap all the benefits that this supplement has to offer. And next we hit yet another popular category when it comes to training, and we're talking about pre-workouts. Now, can I start with this? If you're not training, you don't need a pre-workout. A lot of guys will actually take, and I see them all the time, drinking different kinds of pre-workouts simply as hydration. There's no point to that. If you have a well-designed pre-workout, you'll get the energy that you're looking for, but also the other ingredients that work directly towards improving the output in your actual workout. Now, as a kid, I actually didn't take a pre-workout at all. I didn't think I needed it. But back then, most of the pre-workouts were really just centered on the energy-producing ingredients, namely caffeine. As a quick note on caffeine, I don't think we need nearly the amounts that we take when we're trying to seek out a pre-workout. Our pre-workout actually has 200 milligrams of caffeine, and there's a specific reason for that. My supplements are used by MLB players, and there's a strict requirement for no more than 200 milligrams of caffeine by NSF. And there's a reason for that too, because they know that you can still get the stimulant benefits of caffeine in those dosages without having to go over and beyond. Now, if you're someone who's chronically taking in caffeine, your body may have become accustomed to it, in which case you might be seeking out more. But that's more of an issue of you taking in too much caffeine regularly, and you'd be better off teaching your body on how to come off of that dependency so that you can start to see benefits from lower doses. Now, there's other ingredients in pre-workouts that, again, provide additional benefits. Taurine would be another place where we could get some additional energy. We can include things like tyrosine for increased focus in our workouts, or one of my favorites, beta-alanine, which helps you to train more intensely in those slightly higher rep ranges, which are often the ones that I train in when it comes to hypertrophy. If you're looking for a good, solid pre-workout that kind of hits all those marks, you can certainly try mine over at ATHLEAN-X.com. And with that, can I make one important disclaimer? If I recommend one of my products, please understand that I'm doing so with the suggestion that you have your regular nutrition plan fully in check. Don't waste your money on my supplements or any others, actually, if you refuse to get your nutrition in check first. Remember, supplements are supplemental and they should complement a great diet. Regarding specific age recommendations here, again, I don't believe these guys are really training with weights and therefore they do not need them. Starting in your teens, you can if you choose a responsible brand. And then going on up here, again, I still think the responsibility lies in making a good selection here and not just loading your body up with 400, 500, or 600 milligrams of caffeine. And next we move a little bit further down the list, and in this case a little bit further into your workout when we talk about intra-workout supplements. In other words, during your workout. And this is an untapped area of supplementation that I think can benefit a lot of people if it's specifically addressing the right people. See, I think that up till now, a lot of intra-workout formulas have focused on hydration or using branched chain complexes in order to increase your energy. I'm not really sure that that's the right direction. I think what we really should be focusing on here is one specific use, and that is focusing on the attenuation of strength from the first set to the last set of your workout. We know if you are a strength athlete or if you're lifting heavy weights, not only do you require longer rest periods between sets, but I do believe that from an energy substrate standpoint, you start to become depleted at a faster pace. This is where supplements that address strength attenuation specifically, like another one that we have, PRX, comes in handy. Again, if you're not training for strength, I don't think it really applies, at least my specific product, for that purpose. If you're simply looking for one of those more traditional hydration-based intros, honestly, a couple extra trips to the water fountain I think would do the job. But if the primary focus of your training is strength, then you have a weapon in your arsenal to assist you along the way. 10 to 13-year-olds don't need to worry about this. The 14 to 19-year-olds, again, if the focus of your foundational training is building your strength, then you could benefit. But really, it depends on what type of training you're doing. So basically, this isn't up to you, but certainly something that could be used. Mention the word fat burner in a gym today, and you actually might be told by someone, yeah, I'm taking a supplement called Ozempic. No, you're taking a drug called Ozempic, and it's not the best fat burner you could take, because in the process of losing fat, you're going to lose a whole hell of a lot of muscle too, which is going to probably ultimately set you down the path of more weight gain when you lose any of your active metabolic tissue. Fat burners are a category that sort of doesn't sit well with me, because the last one that was actually effective goes back to the 1980s and was fen-phen, which was also dangerous. Accompanying with it some fat loss was racing heartbeats and in some cases death. Guys, I'm not for anything that jeopardizes your health. It will never get my endorsement. When it comes to fat burners, there are some other natural options. I've talked about before the benefits of, let's say, cinnamon or capsaicin or hot sauce or even ginger. All of them could have a positive effect by increasing insulin sensitivity and metabolically improving your body's ability to burn fat, but it's going to do so in a not so significant way. If you have 5 pounds of fat to lose, then of course they might be a good option. But if you're looking to lose 10, 15, 20, or 100 pounds of fat, they're not going to do anything for you. But at least they're safer. But when it comes to the broad category of fat burners themselves, I'm just not a believer. So for me, it's going to get an X in every single age bracket because I just think there's better options. Namely, work on that diet. I said it before, I'll say it again. When I mention joint recovery, we immediately start thinking the old guys at the end. Well, as one of those old guys, I can tell you, that's actually the wrong thinking. And as a physical therapist, I can tell you that's actually very wrong thinking these days. When you think about the increased activity levels that our teenagers are engaging in today, with travel sports and fall ball, kids are playing sports and engaging in physical activity way more frequently than we ever did as kids. And as a result of that, we're starting to see some early breakdown orthopedically, and it needs to be addressed. Because if you don't intervene, just because you think you're too young for a joint supplement, what happens is the condition just gets worse and worse in a cyclical nature. If you have pain, you compensate to move away from the pain. As you compensate, you throw the load onto a different joint that can't handle the stresses that you're trying to throw onto it. As that joint starts to become overwhelmed, it starts to break down, causing a new source of pain, which causes new compensation, and the cycle continues. If you're experiencing joint discomfort, the first thing you need to do is make sure you're aware of what's causing it. It could be a lack of flexibility. It could be a lack of mobility. Find the root cause, change your form, correct your technique, lighten the weights, do what you need to do to try to unload and relearn how to perform the movement properly. But in the case of breakdown, breakdown is breakdown that needs to be addressed. So sometimes investing usually in the later part of this bracket and into this bracket into a good joint formula can actually help you to stave off some of the decline that you might see as you work your way into the later years. Of course, as you get older, you're going to probably have more frequent and more numerous sources of joint aches and pains. This is, again, where joint formulas become very, very effective. The point is, don't neglect the early signs of breakdown simply because you don't think that you fit the age requirement for the category need. You actually might, and the sooner you do something about it, the better off you'll be. This next one for me is actually very near and dear to me because it's something I've actually taken since the time I was very, very young. We're talking about omega-3s. And the reason for that is that my father, a physician, has long held the belief that omega-3s are one of the most important things in easily attainable ways that we can maximize health and longevity. If you look at an expert like Rhonda Patrick, she'll talk about the benefits of omega-3s, again, far reaching beyond just their cardioprotective effects. She'll talk about how having low levels of omega-3s in your body can put you at a greater risk for all-cause mortality. She'll talk about how getting adequate amounts of omega-3s in your system can increase your overall lifespan by 5 years. Again, these are her findings. I, on the other hand, know about their benefits in the gym because of their anti-inflammatory properties, helping us to control inflammation and recover from our workouts faster, especially when we're training hard. The reality of the situation is we're simply not going to get enough of them through food alone, and that's where supplementation becomes really, really important. Eating fish every single day not only could be quite expensive, but at the same time is just not going to give you all of the omegas that you need. That said, the quality of the supplement that you choose is critical here, because choosing a low-quality fish oil is going to oftentimes bring along with it pesticides or heavy metals that the fish ingest that are going to make their way into your body, pretty much defeating the entire reason for why you'd want to take these in the first place. If you're looking for a high-quality pharmaceutical-grade fish oil designed by a physician, my dad, then of course you can check ours out, Dr. C's Omega-3s, over at ATHLEAN-X.com. But again, choose whatever you want to choose here, guys. I just think that you should probably choose something in this category because it has benefits far-reaching from all the way young to all the way old. And lastly, that brings us to probiotics, another increasingly popular category here, mostly I think because we just came off of a pandemic, which involved a lot of illness, along with illness, a lot of treatment, and a lot of treatment with antibiotics. And antibiotic use can actually destroy normal gut flora, but not necessarily forever or long-term. Potentially a short course of probiotics here could help us to kind of give that normal microbiome a little bit of a kickstart to get back to functioning normally, but I'm not sure that it needs to be something you supplement with consistently. Regarding their safety, there's certainly no cause for concern in using them at any of these age brackets. As a matter of fact, even younger than this, my kid's pediatrician has often recommended them for them to restore normal gut function. But the idea is, again, do you really need them? Could you just eat yogurt? Are there other ways to actually help to restore your normal gut flora? I do think there are, but again, this is one of those up to you, and I'll let you make that decision. And so with so many supplement categories to cover and only limited time to do so, I had to rely on Amazon to give me the top selections based on popularity, and that's what I have behind me. Hopefully you found the video helpful. If you're looking for the high quality supplement categories that I have at my own site, I can put my name on them and vouch for them. Of course, they're over at ATHLEAN-X.com. In the meantime, if you found the video helpful, leave your comments and thumbs up below. And also, if you haven't done so, click subscribe and turn your notifications so you never miss a video when we put one out. All right, guys, see you soon.